Zeko! Get back here! I'm gonna kill you! As Izuku was barely able to run, let alone stand, because Bakugo and his lackeys have been seriously injuring Izuku in the woods. Izuku has a broken arm and a fractured knee, and also he has a big slash mark on his chest, courtesy of one of Bakugo's goons. And of course, he has burn marks all over his body. And then as Izuku was praying to who was ever listening to him, please, 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 please help me, anyone, I don't care, please. And then as Izuku saw a cave nearby, and then as he took no time wasting, and then as he wasted no time, running inside the cave until Bakugo saw him running, and as he did a devilish smirk, and then as he told his lackeys to stay here, I'll be finished with him soon enough. See how this happened is Izuku was pulling a prank on Bakugo by putting a bucket over the stall that he was in, and dumping it all on Bakugo. And as Izuku ran, and as Bakugo and his goons chased after Izuku until they finally caught Izuku. As one of Bakugo's goons slashed Izuku on the chest, Izuku took this opportunity to grab a rock and smash Bakugo on the head. That got Bakugo extra pissed. So, we jump back to where we are right now in the story. As Izuku just dipped in the cave and, well, you know the rest. And as he was scared for his life, being in a dark cave that he can't really see too well in. And then as he kept walking and walking with his injured body, and then as he looked at himself and said, please don't, so is this how I'm gonna die? I never thought it would be to Bakugo. I thought I'd either kill myself or die of natural causes, but Bakugo, I never thought, well, this was inevitable, really. As Izuku started to cough vigorously and started to cough up a little blood too. I gotta hide from Bakugo, and once he's left, I gotta get to the hospital. Until he came across this wretched stench, and as he got to where the stench was, he saw a skeleton, and then as he saw a sword in a stone. What is that? And then as Bakugo caught up to Izuku and said, well, look what we have here. A useless Deku who wants to die an early death. Well, I could just say that me and you, we were in a cave, wandering around until, oops, the cave collapsed, leaving your body smushed into pieces. And me, well, I will be the #1 hero as planned, and I can't wait to kill you. And then as Izuku said to himself, no, this is not how I'm gonna die. I am not gonna die in a cave that smells like shit. I'm gonna live! And then as Izuku ran to the sword with every ounce in his being, and then as he grabbed the sword and started to pull it with both of his hands. Yes, one is broken to the point where it probably can't be repaired, but Izuku doesn't care. He fights through the pain, and then as he eventually pulls the sword out of the stone, and then as the sword started to glow a grayish, whitish color, and then as Izuku looked at Bakugo with anger and rage in his eyes, and then as he pointed the sword towards Bakugo and said, come at me, you mongrel! And then as Bakugo said, die! And blew a massive explosion towards, well, as he threw an AP shot towards Izuku, And then as Izuku didn't really know what to do, but then as he grabbed the sword by both of his hands and did a downward slash. And then as he wasn't really thinking on what to do, he just did it without him really noticing. And then as surprisingly the sword reflected the blast at him, and then as the blast got bigger to a bigger AP shot, but the blast or the AP shot had a grayish, whitish aura around it, and then as it blasted Bakugo, causing the explosion to burst into flames, causing Bakugo to be kicked or sent out of the cave. And then as Bakugo was knocked out unconscious, and as his goons saw the whole thing, and then as he said, and then as they screamed, "We will get you, Deku!" and ran. And then as Deku didn't really know what to do, so he just passed out through the immense pain he was experiencing. As Izuku woke up a couple of hours later, and then as he woke up and looked around, as he didn't feel anything except the sword in his hand. As he looked at the sword in a curious manner, he got up and got a look at the sword, and it still was glowing a grayish whitish aura around it. It still had and was glowing in a grayish whitish aura. And then as he started to move it around and eventually started to do some swordsman slashes, or just started to randomly slash the sword around like he knew what he was doing. And then as Izuku did a downward slash, but this time the downward slash caused the sword to sprout out a huge amount of power, and kind of like Conqueror's Haki, but it's actually a slash with grayish whitish aura. And then as the cave started to collapse, but with Izuku's newfound speed, his forehead started to glow, and then as his hair started to glow in a grayish color. And then as he ran out of the cave and with super speed. As the cave collapsed, and Izuku didn't really know what to think of this, so he went home. And then as Izuku finally got home, and then as almost forgot to. There we go. Let's continue on with the story. Sorry about that. Let's continue on with the story. As Izuku finally got home, and then as his mother was crying in the living room, and as he ran in the living room and said, "Mom, are you okay?" But he didn't really get to finish the sentence before Inko jumped on Izuku and started to cry. "My baby, where have you been? I was worried, sick about you." "Mom, it's fine. I'm fine. I just had a crazy experience." And then as she said, "Why are you holding a sword?" And then as Izuku completely forgot about the sword, and then as he said, "It's a long story." Basically, he told Inko what happened, and she got pissed and was gonna call Mitsuki, but Izuku stopped her, saying, "I don't want any bad blood between you guys. Just forget that I told you this, but I'll be sure to tell you next time, and please just don't tell her." Fine, Izuku, sweetie, but are you sure it's safe having that sword around?" "Oh, for me, yes. For people who are gonna mess with me, not so much." "Izuku." "Yes, Mom? Promise me something." "Yes, Mom? Please, only use that sword for good. Because of what you told me, that sword has immense power. And have you ever heard of the tale of Arthur? King Arthur? That guy from England? The fairy tale about him? Yes. Does that sound similar? Aside from the part being almost killed by your childhood best friend, or ex-best friend, other than that, it does sound similar. Me pulling the sword out of the stone, but I don't know if it's the same sword because it grants me a lot of power, let's just say." And then as Izuku got curious, so he did search up on Google the story of King Arthur. And then as he read it, and then as he saw a few similarities, like how he was a kid, and he was just a scrawny little boy until he picked up the sword. But things changed. Izuku got buffer and he got taller and his voice got deeper. He didn't really know how to explain it. After he woke up, just didn't really notice. His body just felt more light and the sword felt lighter as well. The sword was very heavy. Izuku could barely lift the sword, but now it feels a part of him, or like it's a part of him, more like it. Izuku didn't really know what to think or do, but all he knows is the sword is his, and he was gonna use it to become a hero, and a better hero that Bakugo will ever be. So, Izuku was about, let's say, 12 years old, or 11 and a half. His birthday was coming up soon. So, as his birthday gift, his mom gathered up all the money she could, nearly becoming broke, trying to find Izuku a scabbard for his sword. And then as he started to cry and hugged Inko and said, "Thank you so much, Mom. I really appreciate this." "Oh, no worries, sweetie. It's the least I can do for my baby boy." And then as they both smiled and had a good time with the limited money they had, since she spent almost all of their life savings on that sword. But she was able to work it all back, so nothing is really wrong. And then as Izuku started to train, he learned a few things about the sword. First, the sword has obviously granted him super speed, super strength, durability, and also a slight healing factor. But the healing factor can be overwhelmed. Izuku's gonna have to find a counter for that. But that's a problem for future Izuku and future Jack, which is me. But anyway, let's continue. Now, Izuku has came up with a few special abilities. First, full counter and revenge counter. Yes, I know, it's from Seven Deadly Sins, but I just wanted to give Izuku some special abilities. You guys already know what full counter and revenge counter is. If you guys don't know, basically, full counter is where you can send somebody's non-physical attack back at them 10 times stronger. But Izuku's ability is different. Basically, once the blast touches Izuku's sword, the sword will add a bit of its power to the blast, creating a much bigger and more powerful blast or attack, whatever. So, for example, Bakugo's AP shot. It was just an aura, but Izuku could take that a step further by changing the color of the attack to a grayish white color, which is where revenge counter comes in. Izuku could take physical and non-physical attacks and add that to his revenge counter, but it takes a long time to charge, and it costs Izuku. Well, in order for Izuku to use that, he has to acquire a lot, and I mean a lot of damage to himself. But the revenge counter can level a city, a country if he gets, that injured. And his power can rival that of his manga counterpart. Yeah, his manga counterpart. And Izuku decided to take up swordsmanship because he just didn't want to be waving a sword around like it was a toy. So Izuku actually, since Izuku couldn't afford actual sword lessons, Izuku just decided to train online. He found a couple of old videos on how to use a sword, how to block, how to strike, how to basically just use a sword like it's a part of your body. And since since Izuku and the sword have already bonded, it didn't take long for Izuku to master the sword's power. And the sword has another special ability. Where it can store a power and release it. it doesn't have to take anybody's power like full counter and revenge counter, but it can store up its own energy and Izuku's willpower, kind of like hockey. So we're just gonna call this the power slash. I'm not that very creative. Neither is Izuku. So we're just gonna call this the power slash, the moon power slash. And the blade is gonna be called the moon blade because it has a crescent moon on its on its um on its flat side, as you can see in the picture. And that's basically it. That's Izuku's skill set. I didn't want Izuku to have a lot of skills, but I also didn't want Izuku to be weak. And as I said, we are doing a time skip. And yes, as he did sign up for UA as quirkless, but he did go to the school and filled out a weapon request form. If you guys don't know what that is, basically a weapon request form is basically just asking if you can use any weapons in the practical exam, and UA signed off on it. They contacted Izuku's mother and told him yes, he could use a sword, but he must not harm any students and also keep it on in its scabbard at all times until the practical exam starts. Izuku agreed to those terms, and Izuku's pretty a goofy, pretty funny, goofy character. Doesn't get mad easily, but when he does, you better pray, because Izuku is very, very ruthless when he is angry. So, as Izuku is walking into the practical exam, or UA's entrance exam, wow, this is big, and that's what she said, as he giggled to himself, and then as somebody giggled too, and then as he looked to his side and saw, you guessed it, Uraraka. And she said, "Oh, you like the joke?" Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a little perverted, but funny. Thanks. I thought nobody was listening. My name is Izuku Midoriya, but you can just call me Izuku. And my name is Ochako Uraraka, but you could just call me Uraraka. Alright then, Uraraka-san. So, you're a first year? Yeah. Um, so wanna walk inside with me? Yeah, sure. And also, I hope we could be good friends in UA. That is, if we make it into the same class, that is. And then as Izuku said to himself, wow, she's beautiful. And Izuku is an out loud thinker, like me. I think out loud sometimes, but it's not important to the story, just a little fun fact about me. But anyway, let's continue. And then as Uraraka let out a small blush and said, "Why, thank you. You're pretty cute yourself, Izuku." And then as Izuku blushed and said, Did I say that out loud?" And then as the speaker came on, it said, "5 minutes until the exam starts." And the intercoms went off as Uraraka and Izuku looked at each other and ran inside. Izuku did have the sword on his back, but Uraraka wasn't paying close attention to it. The scabbard is basically just black with it's just basically all black with a gray moon crescent on it. And yeah, it's a pretty cool design, but don't really have an image for it. Just gotta imagine it, you know? But anyway, let's continue. As the and also Izuku is not the brightest tool in this shed, you know? He's not dumb, but he's not smart either. He's average, you know? He's an average Joe, you know? Not smart, not dumb. But he was lacking in the theoretical proportion of the exam. And as Izuku was struggling, and then as he was laughing to himself, and he said, "I shouldn't have focused so much on training." And then as Izuku slammed his head on the desk that he was studying on, and then as he finally turned it in, though he was the last one to turn it in, and everybody was already everybody was already in the receipts for the rules of the practical exam. And then as President Mike said, "Yeah, are you ready, young listeners?" And then as the crowd was silent, but Izuku said, fuck it. And then as he said, yeah, I'm ready, let's go! And then as President Mike said, yeah, way to go! Anyway, let's continue. And then as President Mike stated the rules until Ida got up and said, wait. And then as he went on with his little rant, can't really remember what it is, then as he pointed towards Izuku and said, and you, first, you're being obnoxious. Second off, why do you have a weapon on UA grounds? And third, if you're not going to take this exam seriously, I suggest you leave. Now. I suggest you leave now, Ida said. And then as Izuku said, laughed to himself. You're funny. You know that, dude? First, I was being obnoxious. President Mike asked a question, and I was the only one to answer him. So technically, all of you guys are wrong for not answering him, including you, since you didn't answer him either. Secondly, I have a form or a weapons form that said I could bring this weapon. And as Izuku showed the slip that says he could. And then as he said, third off, you're the one that's being obnoxious since you were the one that interrupted Mike and stood up and said something. So would you mind and screw off? Kindly. Respectfully, of course. Then as Izuku smiled, and then as everybody was like, ooh, and then as Ida sat down embarrassed. And then as Izuku looked at Mike and said, you could continue. And as Mike said, yeah, he did continue. As Uraraka and Izuku were in the same city. And then as he walked towards Uraraka, but Ida was gonna stop him, but Izuku just walked around him and said, I don't got time to deal with you, bud. Gotta go talk to a new friend. And possibly a love interest. Izuku said that quietly. As Izuku walked towards Uraraka and said, hey, you nervous? Oh, it's you. Hey, Izuku-kun. How are you? Izuku-kun. I like that. Well, yeah, yeah, nice to see you too, and you seemed a little nervous. Well, yeah, it's just, my quirk is pretty weak. Oh, what is your quirk? Zero gravity. Oh, that's not weak at all. What's the side effect? I throw up every time I overuse my quirk. Oh, I see. That's how it's weak. But it's not really weak if you think about it. You just need to overcome that weakness and you'll be fine, you know? Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Hizun-kun. I appreciate it. Oh, no need to thank me. Just being a good guy. And then, as President Mike said, ready, set. But before President Mike could finish, Izuku unsheathed his blade and cut the gates in half, or just cut the gates open. As Ida and the rest of the examinees, except Uraraka, said, hey, that's cheating! What? No, it's not, President Mike said. Do you think villains will wait for you? You think villains will give you a countdown? No! Follow that kid's lead! Go, go, go! As everybody started to run inside, but Izuku had already around 20 points by the time they actually started to go into or run into the city. As Izuku felt a presence behind him, and then as he looked behind him and saw a couple of rockets shooting at Izuku by a robot, Izuku cut the rockets clean in half, and covered by the smoke, Izuku left the smoke, slashed the robot in half, and then as he sheathed his blade, causing the robot to explode. How? Enemy logic. And then as he built up some energy in his blade, as he looked at 12 more robots and said, Lunar Slash. Yeah, I came with that. Instead of Moon Slash, I came up with Lunar Slash. Lunar Slash. And as the sword spit out about 12 slashes, causing the robots to explode. And as Ito was looking at Izuku and said, "Wow, he's pretty good with that sword." And then as Izuku just started to walk around, slashing robots using the lunar slash, and he was also counting until Izuku racked up about 12,000 points. And then as he said, that should be enough for now. And then as Izuku was just sitting and waiting for the exam to end, until as he can hear and feel rumbling, 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 something's rumbling, rumbling. As Izuku could hear the Attack on Titan theme song playing in his head, as he can hear the the ground shaking. And then as he laughed to himself and started to see what the commotion was all about. Then as he saw Ida running, and then as he was telling everybody else to run as well. And then as Izuku looked up to see the 0-pointer, then as he said, not really worth my time. 0 points. And then as he heard, "Help!" And then as he looked behind him to see a strange all pink girl. And then as she was melting the rubble, but there was so much rubble on top of her, not all of it was melting in time. As the 0-pointer was about to crush her, Izuku jumped in and said, "Damn, that was pretty reckless of UA, but never fear because I am here!" And then as Izuku transformed into All Might's face, and then as he grabs his sword, and then as his hair started to glow a grayish, whitish color, and then as you can see a blur of Izuku's silhouette go by the 0-pointer's leg and slash it clean off. As the 0-pointer was falling forward, Izuku came close to the 0-pointer's face, and then as he said, "Ultimate Lunar Eclipse Slash!" And then as he gathered up all the energy that he could muster and used the Ultimate Lunar Eclipse Slash, causing the 0-pointer's head to slash clean off horizontally. And as Izuku powered up some more and started to slash the 0-pointer's body all over the place. Kind of like how Raiden slashed the Metal Gear. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just look it up. And anyway, back to the story. As Izuku landed in a hero's pose and sheathed his blade. And then as he walked towards Mina, of course it's Mina, and then as he looked at her and said, "You okay?" And then as he transformed into All Might's face, and then as Mina laughed, and then as she said, "Wow, you're very funny. Who are you? And also thanks for saving me." "Well, my name is Izuku Midoriya, but you could just call me Izuku." "What's your name?" "My name is Mina Ashido. And, again, thanks for saving me." "Oh, don't mention it. That's what heroes do. And I am a hero in training after all." "So, want to be friends?" Mina said to Izuku. Sure. You seem like a very fun and energetic person to hang around, so I can dig it." And then as he got the rubble off of Mina and started to, lift her up, and then as she said, "Ooh, aren't you a hunk?" "Well, thank you, milady." And then as they both laughed and started to walk away to Recovery Girl, and then as he set Mina down and said, "Take care of her for me, will you, old lady?" "Hey, don't call me an old lady." And then as she poked Izuku with her, I would say cane, I would say giant needle. Let's just go with the giant needle cane. Then as Izuku started to bleed a bit, but his healing factor kicked in and the blood stopped. His clothes got a little bloody, but he didn't really care. And then as he started to walk away, and then as he said, "Wow, I see why you UA, Mina." And that's where I'm going to end it off, because this video is 29 minutes long. Didn't really expect it to be that long. But, yeah, this series is going to be called The Sword and the Stone. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on that notification so you know when I'm going to when I'm going to be posting my next video, which is probably going to be tomorrow because I'm infatuated with the series. This series was inspired by one of my favorite creators on YouTube, a What If creator like me. It was basically What If Deku had Excalibur. But I decided to put my own twist on things and give him the Moonblade. And the Moonblade didn't really come out of any anime or anything. I just popped up in my head. I was looking for some ideas until I just saw the sword, and I thought, hey, this would be a cool idea. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great night or day wherever you are. As you can see, it's 11:23 at night. So I'm gonna log off and take a rest because this was my 20th recording of this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you all later, and bye-bye.